That doesn't really matter because I already told you where you should be. We are live. We are on standby. TikTok. I'll tell you exactly where. Right here, right where my fingers are. This is where the camera is. Right here. Okay. We are still on standby. I mean, obviously, they can see us and they can hear us. So this is more of like a technicality. If I ever go back and actually like cut these, like this is obviously gonna get edited out as I improve the quality of the stream and actually like pre-record them. Um, Stuff like this is gonna get cut out because you do just take way too long. Like every time, like you just take way too long to get ready. Okay. Okay. You need more sleep too. Like you. Okay. No, no, hang on. I'm not ready. I'm not ready. And take a deep breath. Deep breath. You might need a shot too. No. Okay. I just want to snip this whole section out. Okay. We're ready in 10. All right, welcome back, listeners. This is Wolf Radio, and I am your host, Nitro Wolf. In second chair is Frosty. Say hi, Frosty. As per the usual, we have subjects we want to talk about, and we want to tie them in with the furry community somehow. More often than not, they turn into just rants where I share my personal experiences with you about the subject at hand. The subject today, our topic, is self worth. Okay, so to get that started off, I want to say that a lot of these topics are intertwined. A lot of these topics are things that we have to explore throughout our lives. It's not something that you can just learn and forget and it just works all the time, especially with self worth. I do want to put up the preface that self worth is something that you have to struggle with for your entire life. Like that's the first thing that you need to understand and accept is that you will always question your self worth. And sometimes you're just not considering your self worth at all. So, what I want to start with is you need to get out of the routine where you're not working on yourself. Like, this is more of a talk along the lines of self help. These episodes we do are very much intertwined with self help, and self worth is self help in the sense that you need to set yourself on that path to help yourself to understand your own personal worth. And that's all internalized. Like, yes, other people can give you worth, but you can't just internalize that all the time because then you're not going to understand how you see yourself. Okay. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just don't think about it. They just go on through their day. They're just getting on with the day, day by day. And for you to get better, especially if you've put yourself in a very deep rut where you've been depressed for a very long time, you need to stop and do some like self reflection and tell yourself, okay, I need to set time aside to understand what I want out of my life and how my self worth plays into that. And even that, like defining self worth is difficult for me because I see it as a combination of things. Like it's like self esteem, like your self image. It's how you see yourself, what you think other people think they see of you. So all these things kind of like just get thrown into a pot and it all gets mixed in. And at the end of the day, there's too much in the pot if you haven't done anything about it to manage that. And you're not even in control of your self worth. You're not in control of your self esteem, image, blah, blah, blah. And you end up where you're just a robot, basically. You're a robot just reacting to other people. And you need to break out of it. You just need to start considering, like, what am I? Like, why am I almost like, yeah, it's a very, very philosophical, like, kind of thing, very existential, almost spiritual thing. But once you start working on yourself and you consistently have a routine of positively identifying what makes you worthy on the day by day, things will start getting better because it'll start filtering over to other aspects of your life. So, I definitely struggle with self worth, but I work on it consistently. Uh, there are a lot of times where I just I have days where I'm just feeling down, and I feel like you know nobody really wants me around, that I'm annoying, and I feel like I just have no worth, like I'm just worthless, like I'm not entertaining to anybody. But then I sit there and tell myself, I've done all these things up until this point in my life, like things have been worse, and somehow I've persevered, and that's a quality that adds to my self-worth, is that I stick things through. I'm persistent. I try to not give up until it's pointless, basically exhaust my options. And see I'm saying it's difficult. Like I'm even struggling to talk about my own self-worth right now. But I have a decent job, I have a decent life, I have Wopsty now, and that's a huge step. Like I understand not everybody has everything that I have, but you give yourself those goals and you tell yourself, you know, I am worth, being around. I, just putting out my energy out there and having people like reciprocate does help with that. But I need to like come up with this energy on my own. Like I can't just depend on other people to keep me going. Because if I depended on other people to give me my self worth, I'm gonna end up in like a pit of silence. Because there are times where everyone else just doesn't want to talk to you. They're like burned out. Like it's almost like the planets align and nobody is energetic. Like everybody is going through seasonal depressive disorder, seasonal affective disorder, sad. Like, around those times, like everybody's just like dragging on and they just don't want to deal with anything. They just want to get through their day. And, you know, you need to tough it out and tell yourself, it's not me. Like, I'm not the issue, because a lot of people will point that at themselves and say, "Oh, I'm the issue. I'm the reason they hate me." And you can't think that way, because as soon as you start thinking that way, like, you are going to get people to start hating you, because you'll start almost being like whiny, and your your worth as exempt like projected, like your projected worth to other people is gonna decline. Like, people are actually gonna not want to be around you if they start feeling like you're too much of a time sink or too whiny. So having a positive self-worth does attract people. So you need to keep that in mind, is that, if you want to have better relationships, friendships, it's good to start working on yourself in the self-worth department, in the self-esteem department, because people like that. People like when they receive energy rather than energy is taken away from them. So self-worth, yeah, lifelong challenge. We all deal with it. It could be worse, like, but also at the same time, it's not the greatest thing to sit there and just keep telling yourself, "Oh, it could be worse. It could be worse. It could be worse. It could be worse." Because really, what you need to tell yourself is, I'm worth it, and you know, people do want to talk to me. I am interesting in in my own ways. Like, you may not go out that much, but you're really good at board games, and maybe you just haven't found your crowd. So don't base your lack of group interests as, you being a failure in the worth department, because maybe you're just isolated right now. And I had that issue where, I got isolated externally, and then when the when the isolation finally built up so much that I was like, I truly felt alone. Like, all I had to rely on was me, and I was hanging on by a thread. I was literally hanging on by a thread. But part of what kept me going was reminding myself of my achievements and everything that I've done so far to get to this point, and what made me a worthy person. Being good to people, listening to people, feeling, those empathic feelings for people, and trying to help them get through their problems. That, reminded me, what, I am worth it, and maybe other people will need me down the road. So I can't just, poof, disappear from existence. Even though, it's a constant struggle, where at that point in my life I really was hanging on by a thread. And when you're in that situation, you just got to grab for anything. And grabbing for those good moments and better aspects of yourself is a good thing. And if you're not the greatest of people, uh, maybe it's time to make a change. Maybe it's time to start, having these small changes in your life in the right direction. Like, start picking up self-help books, start talking to people. Like, I mean, not to self-advertise, but I can lead you at least in the right direction of what kind of books you should be looking at. I can, try to condense some ideas for you. I can, just listen to you, whatever you have to say. And, even if I don't have, you know, a solid answer, I'll try to figure it out and try to, give you something. But, sometimes just the listening part is enough for some people. Um, what else do I have to say about self-worth? What else? What else do I have to say? This one's feeling kind of short just because, like I said, it's a difficult subject to just keep just to the subject of self-worth because there's so much around it that connects to it. And I don't want to get too far away from it, like, you know, talking about how to improve your self-esteem and stuff like that, because that could be a whole separate episode on its own. But really, I think the most important thing is taking the time, out of the week. It could be a Saturday, just, I don't know, go get a mixed drink, make yourself a alcoholic daiquiri, and sit outside on a sunny day for like an hour and a half and just reflect on yourself. Like, don't get distracted. Don't sit on YouTube watching, 5-minute videos. Don't go on TikTok and go through, 30-second bombardment of, attention destroying like feeds. Just, you need to like buckle down and ask yourself, like, who am I and what am I doing with my life? And are these the qualities that I think are going to bring me more successful interactions with the world? Like, I know I have some downfalls, and, I'm working on them, but I still tell myself at the end of the day, I have that self-worth. I'm worth it. People will want to be around me if they want to be around me. I can talk a lot. I definitely talk a lot, and I it does scare me sometimes that people like inch away, like, oh yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, you're awesome. Yeah, and then they just disappear. Just so that's super scary for me when I talk too much and I feel like I scare people away. But I still tell myself, like, okay, like, I try not to just put a bunch of bullshit out there where it's like meaningless small talk, because I don't really believe in small talk most of the time. So when I do talk to people, it does end up turning into a very specific subject about something I'm interested in, or we have these philosophical conversations about, you know, um, I guess anthropology and psychology. I guess that's where I usually tend to go to, because I don't really like talking about politics that much. Like, I don't like policies and stuff like that. Like, you can talk about that stuff all day, but that has no direct instant impact to you. But when you reflect on yourself, that is an obvious instant impact. And I will say that it sucks. Like, it sucks to reflect on yourself. Like, you're gonna spiral. Like, sometimes you're gonna spiral and you're gonna tell, like, oh yeah, I suck. I really am not worth it. Like, there's nothing about me that's worth it. It's like, that's not necessarily true. You just have never really looked into yourself, or have never really sat and approached yourself in a positive manner, in a constructive, positive manner, where you can actually make some progress. Because that's the thing about, self help and like going to therapists and stuff. It's like, it only works if you yourself put in the work. You can't just, suck in a bunch of videos and a bunch of information and just throw it up somewhere. Like, you actually have to consume it and you have to digest it. You can't just like put it in your mouth, chew it, and then not swallow, and it just falls out of your mouth and you don't know what the hell happened. That would be pretty silly if you did that with food. And the same way with all this information coming from books and audiobooks and videos and therapists, you need to digest it. You need to understand it. You need to take time to understand it. It's not something that's going to take, you're not going to understand it in a 30-minute video. You're not going to understand it in this episode alone. So, yeah, it sucks, but, it's, I would set aside like a couple hours a week just to think about the self, think about life goals, how I'm getting there, blah, 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 rather than, waiting months or years or not doing anything at all. But, it, like, that's the thing. I don't want to like preach to the choir too much because, like, chances are if you are here and you're listening in, like, you have some sort of interest in self-help. You have some sort of interest in, getting better, or maybe you're just, chilling around to like compare notes, which I fully accept. If you have an argument for me or if you have more to add to the conversation, I am all for that because I don't have all the answers. I can tell you that after everything I've learned, after everything I've understood, I still don't know everything. And I'm not even like 10% of the way. Like, there's so much content out there. Like, you gotta pick and choose and hope that you chose the right one. So, lifelong learning, lifelong. Ooh, okay. Deep breath. Let me. I'm gonna let you, you know, shoot back your opinions, or if you have a story or whatever you want, go ahead and, here's Frobsty on the mic. Okay, so you reminded me because you're going back through your your history is like it's something I wanted to say, and like you said, I don't want to insult anybody, but this is probably gonna insult you if you're very high right now. You need what? Who? Whose sound? Oh dear Jesus! Cheese and rice. Yeah, yeah. We did it again. We did it again. You know exactly what happened. This is my fault. This one is my fault. Oh no, I broke my leg. That's actually no. The stream should be able to hear me because it's going through my Yeti. Yeah. No, hang on. Maybe I sounded like no. Maybe I was just like kind of quiet. Oh, it is you. Like they could hear me like for the first part, but you were completely muted. So we were literally just sitting in silence basically, and you were flapping your mouth. Basically what happened. Hang on. Give me a second.
I keep clipping into the desk and it like hinders my
That doesn't
movement.
matter. Don't worry about that. All right, say something.
I'm talking, I'm saying something.
The stream should be able to hear you.
Okay.
Wow. Okay, so it wasn't a complete loss. It wasn't a complete loss because the stream could still hear me. Maybe not as super high quality because the microphone's like 3 feet away from me, the one on my desk. But
Oh,
I just changed my microphone, so now it's the one on my head, and you should be able to hear Frosty now.
hopefully.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, they should be able to hear Frosty now. Because I see you moving the sound levels. Yeah. But basically, Frosty was going back through her history with just being not to insult her, but being worthless and being in a dead routine where she was just day to day, just not thinking about anything. And part of that was
the use of recreational drugs.
well, part of that was that it wasn't just the use. Like okay, so that is something that you need to take some time to think about as well. Is are you abusing your favorite drug? That is that also applies to alcohol. Like you may not be to the point where you're drunk at work, but you may be having like 2 or 3 shots every night, and that's probably not okay.
Yeah, we
like
can hear
even
y'all. Okay, good.
even if you are functional, you're still like a functional alcoholic. And the same way goes with marijuana. Like just because you can handle it and you can get high every single night doesn't mean that it's actually a good thing for you. And yeah, this is kind of anecdotal, but I'm going to say from like an observational point is getting high every night and being like double high and drunk on the weekends is not good for, doing self-reflection. Like you're not going to be sitting there, high as hell and taking anything of this seriously. Like you're just not. Like you're gonna be sitting there like, whoa, dude, this is so existential. Like, whoa. And the next day you're just gonna completely forget that you even fucking You even talked about it, really. Like her memory is shot. Like she doesn't remember that entire year. Like that's how high she was.
Well, I remember like bits and pieces, but like I can't tell you specifics of like what happened. And
So
again, that was because my self-esteem, I guess I should just recap what I said earlier. Essentially, when your self-esteem is so low and your self-worth is so low, you attract others that have that same self-worth and self-esteem level, and it's just negative all around. Like they just feed off of you and you feed off of them, and really there's no improvement to be made unless one of you breaks out of it and can uplift everybody. But the chances of that actually happening are very rare. And when it does happen, uh, a lot of people will give you pushback. A lot of people are like, "Oh, you've changed. You're not the same person that like you were like 6 months ago."
right,
So
and like here's the thing: it's like when that happens, and you have like you suddenly wake up and then like, oh shit, like I've lost like 5 years of my life just getting high every fucking day. Like I have literally made absolutely no progress. Like I have all these Facebook friends that are having kids, they're buying a house, and I'm sitting here getting high every day with the same group of friends that all they want to do is get high, and it's like you have had no advancement whatsoever in your personal development, and it's because you've basically fallen into a vicious cycle of routine, and it's a negative routine that basically just locks you down. And unfortunately this also taps into functionals versus dysfunctionals. And like I said, this might be insulting, but this is an open forum where you might be insulted. This isn't a safe space, and you yourself may fall into being a little bit dysfunctional, or you're flat out dysfunctional. But I actually don't expect you to be listening in if you're a full on dysfunctional, because you're not going to be looking for this type of stuff. And that was kind of her situation. She got surrounded with dysfunctionals because that was what she was putting out is, hey, I just want to get high and I don't give a shit about anything. Like, let's just have fun and, just make just enough money to buy our weed and get, to the next day. Like, absolutely no goals, literally living day by day, getting high. So, if you see yourself and you wake up one day, like, you need to, like, hold on to it and try to not fall back into being in a substance abuse slash dysfunctional pitfall, because other people will try to drag you back in with them. They're going to be like she was saying, like, oh, you changed. Like, what's up, man? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And, they'll be like, hey, you're just saying all this dumb shit. Like, why? Just get high and shut the fuck up. It's like, no, like at that point, you need to be like, look, I'm sorry. Like, I'm done with that stuff. Like, I actually need to start figuring out who I am, because getting high every day isn't fucking telling me who I am.
right. And I mean, like, again, like, if that's your prerogative and you are 100% happy with where you're at in life, then by all means, keep doing what you're doing. But
Right. But that's the
essentially,
thing. It's like what I'm saying is, if that's you, if you're literally getting high every day and you're absolutely, what is it? Uh, snug as a bug, happy.
snug as a bug in a
Like,
rug, yeah.
yeah, if you're like absolutely content with just getting high every night with a group of friends, then like perfectly fine. Like, you're probably not even listening to this. So we're like
Right.
speaking to the ghosts.
Yeah. And then to also kind of go back to what I was saying because I don't think it picked me up, but um working on your self-worth and your self-image is a lifelong process. Like it is not going to be overnight, and like you need to be for kind of like forgiving of yourself. Like you can't expect yourself to just like change right away because that's a really intense change like for it to happen like within 24 hours. Like you need to be graceful and like kind of work with your body and your mind and like essentially just kind of coax yourself through the growing process. Like, there will be days where you regress back to who you were. There will be days where you just don't want to, you wake up and you don't want to do anything and like just sit in a pit of depression. And like it sucks, but you need to allow yourself to have those days. And you can't just be like, like, because I'll do this, like, it's really bad, it's really toxic, but I'll punish myself. I like, oh, I've been such a bad person. I did this, this, and this wrong. I'm so stupid. I'm an idiot. Like, and it almost borderline goes into self harm. But I'm not even gonna like talk about that because that's a little bit touchy. But like, it's again, it's how you treat your body and how you treat your mind, and it's a lifelong thing. Like, I'm not near as much of an expert, but I can happily say that with the knowledge and the therapy that I've had, like growing up, like I'm definitely way better in a better place here today than I was a year ago, 5 years ago, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not to say that all my whole life was bad or like my whole experience was shit. They're experiences nonetheless. Like, in life you need to have good and bad experiences to mold yourself through, like to have references from, like I'll have a really shitty day at work and I'll almost take it out on myself, like, I should have like gone to school for something and I wouldn't have been here. But then it's like, well, I'm here for a reason. Like, if I want to get to a better place, I need to do the work. I need to get up and put out job applications, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, it's just a constant work in progress and you have to do it with grace. And like, you can't, like I said, you can't be forceful. You can't hurt yourself, mentally or physically when you're going through this whole process. So yeah. Hi.
Okay, so hang on. I was thinking about something and then I grabbed hold of the camera and it like freaked me out. But I was thinking this is all okay. This is what I was on. All of this, all the self-help stuff and all the self-reflection stuff is hard. Like, here's the thing. It's what you should expect if you're just starting out on, like, I don't know, breaking out of your existential shell of, living day to day and just routine, and you want to be more within yourself. Like, you're gonna get headaches. Like, this stuff is like, it's almost like you're going to have all the negative emotions before you start accepting yourself to where you're not going to be in the negative, spiral. So,
Hmm.
just be persistent. Just stick with it. Yeah, it's going to give you a headache. You're going to be sitting there thinking about yourself, and you need to catch yourself when you start spiraling. Like, you know, reflect on that itself. Is like, why am I feeling this way? You know, and sometimes it's very difficult to answer the question. To answer your question is like, why am I feeling this way? Sometimes it's very easy. Sometimes you're just hungry. Like, not even kidding. Like, there's situations where you just haven't checked off your basic checklist and your body doesn't know how to tell you. So before you start, doing this self-help stuff, just understand that it's hard work and you should, you know, relax, do some breathing exercises, get a good snack in before you chin chill. But really what it is you need to set that time aside to relax and reflect. And at some point, like, understand, like, okay, like, I am burned out today. Like, I had to relive like certain trauma, and that's the thing. It's like sometimes when you are thinking about your self worth, it is it is tied to past experiences, because it's almost like we're animals of past experience. We're a sum of all the parts. We didn't just come into existence and are the way we are. We were built up until this point. So you're going to have to get rid of a lot of baggage. There's going to be a lot of things you're going to just have to accept. A lot of things you can't change. A lot of superficial things that you need to just, take a deep breath and just accept that they are the way they are. Like, you shouldn't be telling yourself, oh, I'm like 4'8" and I wish I was 6'3". Like, oh, I'm fucking worthless because I'll never be tall. Like, that should not be part of your self-worth talk. Like, superficial things need to stay away from your self-worth. That's not what self-worth is. Like, oh, I'm not attractive. Like, no, that's not self-worth. Like, you really should not be doing these very mundane physical things. Like, self-worth is very, very intangible. Like, it's the idea of yourself. Like, it's almost like you're like on the borderline of exploring sentience, really. So it's extremely difficult, and keep the superficial stuff away. Like,
Yeah, just like things that you can't necessarily change.
yes,
Like I
like,
get that there's cosmetic surgery if like you're into that, but it's like let's see. Like when I was a kid, some of my I'm trying to think what I used to hate about my physical appearance that doesn't really bother me anymore. Like my
well, the fact that
nose,
we were tall.
right? My height was something that I hated growing up. Like it was useful because I played sports, but I remember like getting the class photos, that they would take like in elementary school, and I was always the tallest one or like second tallest, and I'm always in the back. And it's like I always would see that as a kid, and it's like I hate this. I hate this about me. But now as an adult, it's like I can't really change that. Like as much as I want to, I can't just like shrink my legs or like get a nose job and like, or things like that. Like I have just accepted the way that I am, and I'm trying to control the things that I can change, aka weight, aka like skin perfections, like things you can work on, like hair, like you can change your hair and all this stuff. So like, the little things that you can do, it could be things that you could focus on. Like if we're talking like just physically, like when you look at yourself in the mirror and you're like, wow, I hate the way I look. But ultimately, like 90% of it is just accepting how you are. Like it was a beautiful process of your parents. Like you have your father and your mother's genes, and it's like, bam, this is you. This is how
Wow.
you came out to be. And it's like as you get older, you kind of, you know, I wouldn't say accept it, but it's like you're thankful for it. Like it's like, oh, like I have my mom's eyes and like my dad's fat earlobes, like, and it's like, it reminds me of my parents and where I come from, and I'm okay with this. So, and it's like I said, not everybody is okay with the way that they look, and that's where the next step comes in with surgery and all that stuff. But like I said, when it comes to working on your self-worth, you have to just start small. Like it's the little things. You can make little changes, and like I said, writing would also help, figure out where your mental is at and like how you're thinking and all this stuff. And it's a work in progress. So, you have something?
I do have something. Okay, so like I said, I don't want to tap too far into self-esteem and image right now, like outward appearance. But, if you do little positive things for yourself, like you get a haircut and you really like that haircut, then, that's a positive thing. And it's going to improve your self-esteem because you see yourself externally better. So it's going to help with that self-worth down the line because you have a little you can call it like a little bit, a brick. You have a brick to your foundation.
Mhm.
And like I said, this is all pieces. It's all parts and pieces. You can't just build a foundation all at once. So you got to do small little things like, like I said, the whole haircut thing. Like, oh, you did your nails differently. Like you picked a new color and you really liked it. You got a new jacket, you got a new dress. Um, you did your makeup a different way and you really like it. Like try to experiment a little bit and see what works in the positive direction so that, when you do take the time to reflect on your self-worth, you at least have, some positive experiences to like step on. But like I said, self-worth isn't based on, the external, um I guess, what am I, there's a word, your the external perception, what other people perceive you as. Like you need to understand how you perceive yourself. You can't
Mhm.
just be in a constant loop where you're seeking self-worth from someone else. You need to understand your own. Like try to put yourself in a vacuum and understand like who you are indi- like individually.
Yeah, like there was something that I heard. I don't know if it was from like a therapist of mine or like Facebook. It's one of the two. But it was like, imagine you're in a room by yourself with a copy of yourself. Would you enjoy the time that you're spending with yourself? And like that for me really gets me thinking because it's like, wow, like sometimes there's some days where I feel like I'm just really boring and I'm like, no, I would not want to be trapped in a room with that. Like so it's like that kind of is like a good jump start for me when it comes to like just figuring out like who I am and like if I like the person that I'm becoming, and it's like almost like a checkpoint in the growth process. It's like you kind of have to like check up on yourself and be like, okay, is this the direction that I want to go? Like, is this the person that I want to be? You know. Um. So yeah, that was just something that
Yeah.
just popped into my mind. I was like, oh, like just shove yourself in a room by yourself with yourself.
That's actually one of those scenarios that you don't really want to bring up in the furry community because a lot of furries are instantly going to jump to saying, "Oh yeah, I would totally bone myself," and
Oh,
they're right. They are absolutely right. I would absolutely bone myself.
wow.
Wow.
Real quick in the chat, we have Optimum, Sin, Letzo, and Brendan Kramer. So hello everyone. I just wanted to say that we're not ignoring you. I was just I'll glance over at the chat
No,
here and
no,
there.
we're definitely not ignoring you. And this is the format. This is the format for Woof Radio. It is like a radio talk show. The first half to 75% of it, it's just going to be us, and we will open it up, kind of like calling in. Like if you want to call in, and I was about to suggest that we're gonna open up for like 5 minutes to take questions if you have questions, or if you want us to like get an opinion on something related to the subject, go ahead and put it in the chat right now, and I'll try to answer it. So go for it. Go for it. You are all in. We are waiting for your phone calls right now. I am so excited. I am just staring at this phone, waiting for it to ring.
It would be cool too, like once we get the Discord up and running, like we can we'll be in a voice channel and then we can probably pop in people in voice and probably be like another cool idea.
This is technically just a bonus. Like the video is just a bonus. Like this should really just be a podcast. like
Honestly, yeah. But I feel like
yeah,
it's more visually appealing.
like the spirit of the talk show is that it's a podcast. Yes.
Yeah.
It is
So,
1985 and I am sitting in my basement with a ham radio.
wow.
Wow.
um, so was it Oh, Brandon. Yeah. Brandon says, "Hello, hello furries. I'm a furry and I have not told my parents and I need advice on how to tell them. Can I have some? Also,
Oof.
what phone number?"
What phone number?
It's a figurative phone number. We don't
It,
actually
it's
have a
it's
phone
a
number.
it's an existential phone number. Like it's deep down in a cave, ringing, waiting for someone to pick it up.
Why are you shoving your snoot into the camera?
It's for dramatic effect.
Oh,
Ah, okay. So, I actually have no advice for this because when I
you
told
never
my
had to.
mother, when I told my mother, she laughed at me and said, "So when are you having puppies?"
Oh my God, wait, you actually told your mom?
Yeah, she knows. She knows, but she kind of like I don't know. I don't know what the hell that reaction was. But after that I went to boot camp and I went to the Marine Corps and uh I was a completely silent. Like nobody really knew I was a furry for 10 years. So I didn't have to deal with that. So
Yeah, I was
I'm
gonna
sorry. I
say,
don't have any life experiences about that, so I can only guess. So, I mean, what do you got?
yeah, no, I was gonna say, I don't think I ever like came out to my parents as a furry. My mom just kind of would always just stumble in and watch me draw like wolves, and she would notice a particular white wolf was always being drawn. And she's like, "Is that your character?" And I'm like,
It was
"Yeah,
me.
that's my character."
I'm that white wolf at me.
No, it actually wasn't you. But yeah, so it's like she just kind of was like, haha, hee hee, that's cute. It's one of your characters, like in a story. So it's like she didn't really understand the furry mentality. She knows that like I go to cons and stuff and she's like okay with it. She's not like not okay with it. So essentially, I guess my advice would just be like, I don't know, just be like, "Hey mom, hey dad, like what are your thoughts about me, you know, pretending to be an animal?" Or like, I don't know, just I've like I said, I've never like had that experience before, so like I don't even know how to. You can probably actually Google or not Google, but like go on Twitter and search people's tweets like came out as furry just on the search bar or like coming out to my parents or something. And you can I mean cuz I've seen tweets of this situation so many times, I just can't remember like the actual outcomes of them. But obviously like, they're your parents. So
Well,
they should.
there is one that comes to mind, and it's actually Blue. Blue's father is extremely against it. So
um
yeah, he's like borderline abusive about it, like verbally abusive about it. But it's like a grab bag,
yeah.
like that's the thing. It's like more often than not, uh, if you have a traditional male father who's like not into any of this sort of stuff, he is gonna retract, and he might like take this negatively and fight you about it. Your mother, like mothers across the board, typically like they don't care. They're not gonna fight you on it. They're like, "Oh, that's so nice. I'm so happy for you. Like anything to make you happy." But
Yeah.
it's traditional male fathers that will fight you about this kind of stuff because
Yeah.
um basically and this is a tricky subject. Like I'm being honest because we're getting into the area of like gender norms and what progressive, conservative, blah 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 blah. Oh, what religion are they? Like you have all these factors to that that play in, so you can't just you know get a straight answer with this sort of stuff. So like there's a lot of variables that need to be considered, basically. So I'm sorry we don't have an answer, but unfortunately that's the thing. It's like it really depends. It's like very special individual situations. But like for me, like me personally, like I just could not come out as a furry being in the military. That just was not in the cards for me because I would have gotten borderline crucified and sent to like the desert prison in Yuma, Arizona, like 29 Palms or something. I may have even gotten shipped out to Japan because that's where they send all the, rejects.
Oh my gosh. How old were you when you told her? I was around, I mean, this happened when I was like in middle school, so like 12, 13-ish. Yeah, my dad's in the Navy. Okay, I get it. It's okay. Yeah,
Uh
so,
I was 17, like 16 or 17. No, I was like 17.
yeah, so I my advice would just be just be honest. Just go straight up and be like, "Hey, what do you feel about XYZ?" And just brace for any and all reactions, honestly. Unless you know your parents like very well and how they're going to react, then like just brace for impact, like you know.
Right, and that's the thing. It's like what I said. Like if you can anticipate that it's going to be an explosive situation, what I've seen and the advice, for coming out in general, uh like here's the thing. It's like I don't see it as equal, but it does have some similarities coming out as gay and coming out as a furry because the general population assume that if you're coming out as a furry, you're automatically gay just because of the statistics of it all. And I'm not trying to insult anybody. I'm not trying to insult anybody. This is all just statistics and numbers. But that's generally what people assume, that is if you're a furry, you're automatically gay. And more often than not, it's true. Like 75% of the time, it's like true. So if you know that your parents are going to throw an explosive tantrum, it's almost better to withhold it until you are in a better position to make the announcement, sort of situation
Mhm.
where they're not going to have full power over you. Like in some situations where I've seen, it's like, oh, they came out as gay, we're kicking them out of the house. And
Yeah.
oh, they believe this certain way, we're taking you off the inheritance. You're exiled, we don't ever want to see you again. Like, pack your shit and get out. Like, definitely don't
Mhm.
put yourself in that situation. Like, stay safe. you know I know it sucks to hold it in. I held it in for 10 years, so you can hold it in. I'm not saying, like, that's the thing. I'm not saying hold it in forever. It's just there's certain situations where you just have to play the game and just go along with things and try to not rock the boat to where, you get shipped out to the desert prison.
Yeah, they said, "Oh, I'm 13 right now." Wow. Okay, I've seen those statistics. Yeah, so the other possible outcome too is that your parents just might think you're kidding, like cuz you're really
Right,
young.
right. Yeah, you're
Like,
really
"Oh,
young.
haha, like you're sweet. It's a little phase. Like you'll grow out of it." Or something. And it's like, so in that case, like I said, just keep it as a part of you because if you identify as a furry, then that's part of who you are. And then as you get older, like 17, 18, you know, then that's when you can really just express yourself, and if they're okay with it still by then, they'll be supportive of you. Like I said, I don't know how your parents are, but hopefully they're supportive. So
Yeah, I've been a furry my whole life basically. Like, I was technically a furry before I even knew what a furry was. Like, I had to
I
be
think that's
told.
yeah.
I had to be told I was a furry.
Yeah, I feel like that's how a lot of us start is just pretending to be animals in the playground. And it's like, well, this is how it starts.
Yeah.
Watching too many animal Disney movies and barking, making animal sounds.
Yeah,
Like
bark bark arf.
yeah. But
Yeah, and like I said, you're still young, so a lot can happen. A lot of people grow out of it. A lot of people, they really just shove it away. They put it in a closet and they're like weekend furries. Like the way I see it, I'm a lifelong, lifetime, lifestyle furry. So I'm a furry 24/7, 365. I don't need a fursuit to tell me I'm a furry. I don't need a constant reminder. I don't need to post to Twitter every day to know I'm a furry. Like I'm a
Mhm.
furry as part of my personal identity, and that's probably never going to change at this point. So it's pretty permanent. But back during my phase of furries, a lot of furries would get out of it by like the time they were like 23. They would just get away from the fandom and then pretend they were never a furry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But now the retention is huge. Now there's a lot more retention. So there's a lot more furries that are staying longer, and that's because it's become a lot more mainstream. There's a lot more opportunities for it to be acceptable.
Mhm. I straight up made ears for this because I wanted ears, and my parents don't know about the ears. Fun fact, what you can do is wear your ears on Halloween and get their reaction. Like, pair it with
Yeah,
something, or
yeah, that's a good idea.
dress up as a wolf, be a werewolf, like, because they sell the werewolf masks, and or a cat or whatever animal you are, but, like, go around in that for Halloween and get see how they react. So yeah, like, I remember when I made my first pair of ears and my mom was like, "Wow, you made that?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Wow, that's impressive." So, like I said, hopefully your parents are supportive of it. You just have to kinda, like, tiptoe and kinda just nudge in the right way. The little things, you gotta be subtle about it. But yeah.
But yeah, like I'm no stranger. I'm no stranger to this kind of stuff. Like I have had friends that have had parents where they're like borderline abusive in the sense that they're that classic male father where they're like, oh, you need to do this, like you need to do this specifically or nobody's gonna want you, like you better be in the gym, you better be flirting with girls all the time, like
Mhm.
you're gonna be a manly man, blah blah blah. And it's like that's not really the way to go about things, like. And technically that's just bad parenting. And with that one friend that did live that life, like he literally immediately broke off from that as fast as he could. Like after he went, like left for college. Yeah, he didn't do any of that shit.
Yeah. And I guess to tie that back into self-worth and self-image, like, you are not your parents. Like, you are your own person. You are the product of these two people, but you are not them. You are not carbon copies of them. And it's like, it's okay to have traits from them, to pull like positive traits from them. Uh, like my mother, as neurotic as she is, I love her. I'm not shit talking her, but as crazy as she sometimes can get and paranoid and things, she is like the hardest worker I've ever seen. Like, she will bust her ass for people. Like, you need her for anything and she is there, and she will not quit. She will not give up. And that is something like I admire about her, because if something goes wrong in my life, I will sit down and cry and just like be like, "Oh, like, I stubbed my toe. It's it. This is done. Like, I'm over." Like, whereas with her, like, she'll stub her toe and she'll go like put a band-aid on it. Like, and just, that was a really bad example, but like,
That's a terrible
you know,
example.
I know. But like, yeah, so it's like, don't feel like you need to follow in your parents' footsteps, and don't feel like you're a failure because you're not living up to your parents' standards. Because that was something that I also had to deal with growing up, was they weren't exactly pushing me to do certain things, but they definitely influenced me on how I spent my time. And I have a lot of regrets of not sticking to things that I personally enjoyed, but was not a preference to them. So like marching band, for example, like my heart and soul was into it. Um, I kind of struggled with the depression and the, feeling like I wasn't worth it. Like I'm part of this 100 plus member like state like recognized marching band. Like we were legit. Like we went all the way to states and we're one of the best high school marching bands. And it's like me, this little third chair trumpet player is a piece of shit and does not deserve to be in this band. And I didn't have the I guess the support from my parents to keep me going. And that was something where I needed them the most. Like I needed their, approval. I needed their, I guess, confidence. And, now looking back, I'm like, damn, like I ended my, band career at the sophomore year. And I basically like I was pretty much nothing for my junior and senior years, and I didn't continue into college with band. And that was something that is, something that I will regret heavily. But again, it's like you accept your faults, you accept the choices that you made, and it's like you try to use those building blocks into your future and try not to make the same mistakes. Like you recognize how you felt in the past when making these mistakes or choices rather, and try not to make the same choices again, in the future. So yeah, what the heck.
Um, what I was gonna say is my parents. Wow, whoa, calm down, calm down. Getting too violent, too violent. Calm down. Okay,
It's
so
okay.
my parents did absolutely nothing for me other than make sure I was alive the next day and make sure that I got to school or something like that. Like, whew, like everything I am, everything I've done is of my own doing. Like,
Mhm.
I completely blew my parents' expectations out of the water because they had no expectations. And that's not I'm not saying that I didn't accomplish anything because I'm the first to hit the military. I'm the first to go to college. I'm the first to deal with electronics and technology. I'm the first to, hit these deeper philosophical talks. Like no one in my bloodline before has really been me. So I am to my bloodline, I am the true anomaly. Like the cherry on top is that I'm a furry. Like that's a massive cherry on top. I'm like
Mhm.
as far as you can get from my family bloodline as you get.
Yeah.
So I'm just completely self-made, completely on my own. Like, yes, it's really good to have, a support structure and support system,
Mhm.
but understand that, it's more important to power yourself with that self-worth than to completely rely on a support system. Like, yes, like I said, support systems are important, but the way you see yourself and the way that you get through your day as yourself is important.
Mhm.
And
And
like,
that, like, I was gonna say that in itself, like the fact that you were self-made is probably something that you're proud of. Are you not?
right, and that's what I said, like, that piles into the whole self-worth. And when I
Mhm.
reflect is like I got as far as I have gotten literally on my own power. Like, for the most part my own will, even though I was, I signed my soul away for 10 years. That was my decision. That's not something anybody like really indoctrinated me into. That's not something my parents forced me into. I didn't even have to do that. Like I could have gone straight to college like most of my high school people, but I didn't. Like I said, I'm sick and tired of being part of the regular system. Like, I'm going to try to be something bigger than myself. I'm going to try to be part of a team, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to, be in the Marine Corps for a while. And I'm going to tell you, as a 17-year-old going into boot camp, like, I graduated boot camp and, I became a Marine when we went through the ceremony after we climbed the Reaper and did our, the Crucible. We passed the Crucible. I was told I was a Marine, but it didn't even click in. And we get these 10 days where we come back and do like a little vacation for 10 days and just get to see our families and go home, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, there was this one time, like one of those days, like towards the end, it was like day 7 out of 10. I just completely broke down and started crying and just like had this like deep realization, like, oh shit, like that wasn't just a summer vacation. Like, I didn't just do those 3 months and then I get to go back to my normal life. Like, no, I am stuck here. Like, I sold my life away for like the next 5 years, and it like all hit me all at once. And I'm like, this is who I am now. This is it. Like, it's happening. Like, I'm moving on to the next part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely a lot. Like, it was definitely a shell shock because boot camp, like I said, boot camp was like a summer vacation for me because I was so fit, I was so ready for boot camp that it really was just like a vacation. Like, yeah, I was getting yelled at. Yeah, I was getting, constantly um getting basically worn down to nothing. I was starving most of the time because I was just spending so much energy, but it was still fun. Like, even through all the adversities and pain and, you know, cherishing every second of sleep, like, it was still fun. And that's why during that 7th day, it just all slapped me all at once. And it's like, this is who you are now. Like, you're a Marine. Uh, you better get used to it because this is your life now. And I just had that moment of just accepted it. After like 3 hours of crying, it's like I said, this shit is difficult. Like, you're probably gonna cry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like for me, like one of the big, I guess, moments in my life was leaving my birth state, being forced to choose between uh Ohio and Colorado. It's like, well, you got to go somewhere. You can't stay here. And it's like, well, there goes my entire life. And then, getting out to Colorado when I was like 19, I was like, who the fuck am I? How do I make friends? How do I do anything? Because all the people that I had in Florida were all people that I grew up with when we were like kids. Like living in a small town, like we all knew each other, and it's like, it was like a reset. And I was like, wow, like who am I? Like, are people going to like who I am? And that was something I was very concerned about, other people's opinions, and I still kind of am, just not as much as before, but like, yeah, I was really concerned because I was like, okay, it's my job to make friends now. Like, I don't just get thrown into a classroom and just automatically get 20 new friends. Like, I'm just like, yeah. So that was a whole change, shell shock for me on its own, because it's like, oh, I'm in a brand new place. I know nobody. I'm an adult, so I have to get a job and make money. And so, like, you know, I'm proud of myself for like traversing the emotions, and like, it was scary going into like UPS on the first day because that was my first job over there, and like not knowing anybody, but meeting so many great people and like of all ages and all backgrounds and stuff, and then like working my way to where I am now. Like, I was able, with my current job, I was able to move cross country to be with Nitro. Like, had I not ever applied for that airport job, like I would have never Like, yeah, I probably would still be in Denver, just like going paycheck to paycheck, like not improving
No,
myself.
no, I probably would have I probably would have ripped you away and like restructured financially to make it work.
Aw. Well, there again, that's if we met like 6 years ago.
Like that's the thing. It's like I have so much willpower that if I need something to happen, I'm gonna figure out a way to make it happen. But
Yeah.
okay, we need to wrap it up. When all fails, like if your self worth is faltering and you can't find your self worth and you just still feel worthless, like try to use gratitude. Like figure out what you do have, and sometimes it's as shallow as I have a roof over my head and I ate today. Like that's something you should be grateful for, honestly, because there's people out there that are on the street and haven't eaten anything. And yeah, I understand it's it could be worse, but you know, just find something to grab onto and stick with it. You know, and like for me, when I start spiraling, I start using gratitude. Like, I have my friends, I have the support group, I have the Pahud of Grass, I have, the Pobby Collective. I have, Frosty. Of course, I have Frosty. So,
Yeah.
if all else fails and everybody in the world hates me and I've become, public enemy number one of the entire planet, at least I'll still have Frosty, I think.
Oh no. Yeah,
so
yeah, I'll be around.
so and that's the thing. I understand not everybody has a partner, but find your one thing that you can be grateful for. That's like, part of your support system.
For
All
me,
right.
it was my dog.
All right.
Before I met you, but yeah, like,
Last question. Last question from the chat, if there is one. And then we got to close it up because I'm running out of battery here and we need to shut off the stream.
oh no. Oh, Brandon says, I'm a male, so no need to call me them. Okay, thank you. I'll remember all of this. Yeah, you're welcome. I'm
You're
glad we could
welcome.
help. Yeah. I guess if you do come out to your parents, let us know how that goes.
Yay. Good luck. Good luck. Definitely. Be
Yeah.
safe. Good luck and be safe.
Go forth and
Definitely,
prosper.
definitely scary. Absolutely scary. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's it. We're gonna wrap it up. This was Wolf Radio, episode 4, Self Worth. I am your host,
Episode
Nitro Wolf.
4.
Can you? Are, are you done interrupting? Are you?
Yeah.
Who's the host here? Who's the host here? Is it you?
I thought we were both hosts. Oops.
Is this
Oh, there we go.
Frosty Power Hour?
Yes.
Last time I checked, it was Wolf Radio.
Wow.
All right. This was your host, Nitro Wolf, and in second chair, Frobsty, the Arctic Wolf. You can find her on Twitter at WolvesRock520. You can find me on Twitter at Nitro Wolf. I am indeed the original Nitro Wolf. Don't let other people fool you. Don't let people scam you. I've been around since 1998. So, if there's another Nitro Wolf, he's a cheap imitation and he probably made himself at Walmart.
Great
Thank you so
value,
much for
Nitro.
tuning in. We'll catch you in the next time. Stay tuned. Have a good night.
Bye.